Martell Holt has always been a figure surrounded by controversy, but recently, the mysteries surrounding his life have taken a much darker and more serious turn. For years, fans and media outlets have speculated about his involvement in several car accidents, incidents that were either ignored or never fully explained. The truth has been elusive, with rumors swirling and shocking images circulating online, but Martell has remained mostly silent, until now. Finally, after years of speculation, he's decided to speak out, but what he revealed is far more tragic and dark than anyone could have imagined. This is not just about Martell's troubled marriage or his reality TV career. This is about real-life consequences, mistakes, and the hidden side of a man who has carefully crafted a perfect image for public consumption. The car accidents, which were at one point written off as mere blips on the radar, have turned out to be more than what was initially reported. Fans have long been curious about the crashes and why they were kept under wraps. Today, we're going to break down those incidents, step by step, and reveal the truth that Martell has been hiding for years. To understand how we got here, we need to go back to 2017, just before Martell's big break on Love and Marriage, Huntsville. At this point, he was still mainly known as a local businessman in Alabama with a seemingly perfect marriage to his wife Melody. However, things weren't as perfect as they appeared. According to reports, Martell was involved in a minor car accident that many dismissed as unimportant. It seemed like just another minor fender bender. But that's where the story starts to get strange. Witnesses at the scene of the accident reported that Martell was acting unusually agitated, sweating, and visibly shaken. He was even seen arguing with police officers, which seemed excessive for someone involved in a minor car crash. What's more, there were no official police reports released, and no clear details about what had actually happened. The whole incident seemed to disappear without explanation. At first, fans brushed it off, but it didn't sit right with everyone. Over the following months, Martell started exhibiting strange behavior. He became anxious about driving at night, avoiding it whenever possible, and even started hiring private drivers for events that he would have typically attended alone. It seemed as though the minor accident from 2017 had triggered something in him, but it wasn't clear what. This would turn out to be just the beginning of a much darker story. As Love and Marriage, Huntsville grew in popularity by 2019, Martell was no longer just a local businessman, he was a national TV personality. Fans were following every detail of his life, but many were unaware of the second, much more serious car accident that took place during the height of Season 2 filming. While this incident was never mentioned on the show or publicly discussed, insiders close to Martell confirmed it was real, and it sent shockwaves through his inner circle. According to sources, Martell was involved in a late-night crash near DCR, Alabama, just outside of Priceville. A post from a cousin of one of Martell's childhood friends, which was later deleted, described how Martell's car swerved off the road and struck a guardrail. The post also mentioned alcohol as a factor in the crash. Although the post disappeared quickly, screenshots of it spread across Reddit and fan forums, raising questions that Martell refused to address. Even more suspicious was the fact that Martell canceled several public appearances around the time of the accident, including one at a major real estate seminar in Huntsville. Why would he cancel these events unless something was seriously wrong? When questioned about the incident during a radio interview, Martell denied it outright. He didn't offer any explanation or clarification, choosing instead to dismiss the rumors. His response was terse, stating, "Let's focus on what's real." But the more he refused to speak on the matter, the more the suspicions grew. Fans began to notice patterns in his behavior. He would frequently arrive late, avoid certain conversations, and sometimes appear visibly stressed or anxious when driving. The rumors about Martell's second accident didn't die down. In fact, they only grew louder after a woman named Kayla M. came forward with a chilling account of what she witnessed on the night of the crash. Kayla appeared on a Facebook Live broadcast, sharing a story that would rock Martell's public image. According to Kayla, she was driving behind Martell's vehicle on a winding road outside of Priceville when she saw his SUV swerving uncontrollably. At first, she thought he was trying to avoid something, but as the car swerved left and right, she realized something was seriously wrong. Kayla stopped to help, fearing the car might explode. When she approached the vehicle, she saw Martell slumped over the steering wheel, dazed and bleeding from a gash on his forehead. She claimed she could smell alcohol coming from the car, and when she tried to offer help, Martell refused medical assistance. Instead, two men in a black Escalade arrived, helped Martell out of the car, and then drove off, leaving the wreckage behind. Kayla claims the men told her to leave and not say anything, warning her that Martell was a public figure. For months, Kayla stayed quiet, but her conscience eventually got the better of her. She spoke out because, in her words, that man could have killed someone that night. She was especially disturbed by how Martell continued to post motivational content and make public appearances as if nothing had happened. Fame shouldn't erase consequences, she said during the live stream. Kayla's revelation sent shockwaves through the internet, but what happened next would completely change the course of this story. As more people started to connect the dots, a new voice emerged, one that was far more credible. Rico B., a former business associate and personal assistant to Martell for nearly 2 years, came forward with a stunning revelation. Rico revealed that he was one of the people who helped cover up the accident. He explained that Martell had called him first, not the police, after the crash. By the time Rico arrived, Martell was visibly shaken, bleeding, and clearly intoxicated. Rico stated that Martell was desperate to keep the accident under wraps because he feared it would ruin his reputation. In a shocking twist, Rico revealed that the vehicle was towed under a shell company Martell had used for real estate transactions. The crash report was handled off the books, thanks to some favors and private agreements. Rico also explained that Martell had been involved in at least 2 other near misses with cars, one of which involved him hitting a parked vehicle and paying the owner off to avoid a report. Rico's statements were bombshells, but they didn't stop there. He explained how Martell's behavior had started to spiral out of control. The paranoia, the avoidance of public appearances, and the refusal to drive himself, all of it pointed to a man who was desperately trying to control the narrative around his life. According to Rico, Martell had even gone as far as instructing staff to remove security camera footage and fabricate timelines to cover up his tracks. As if this weren't enough, Rico also claimed that Martell's finances were in disarray. He was reportedly panicked over an upcoming audit on his real estate firm, and there were reports of questionable expenses and write-offs. Martell had been using business expenses to cover lavish vacations and gifts, many of which were allegedly for romantic partners he had been seeing on the side. The picture that was emerging was one of a man who had been living a double life, trying to maintain a public image while hiding a web of lies, deceit, and reckless behavior behind the scenes. The public's perception of Martell had always been carefully crafted. He had been portrayed as the perfect businessman and father on Love and Marriage, Huntsville, but the truth was far darker. What's even more disturbing is that Martell's team has tried to discredit Rico, claiming that his allegations are false and defamatory. Martell himself even posted a cryptic Instagram story, saying, "Lies can't live forever. Truth always wins." But as more people continue to speak out and as evidence starts to surface, the truth about Martell Holt's actions is becoming undeniable. Now, the questions that remain are, how far is Martell willing to go to protect his reputation? Will the truth about his reckless behavior, the cover-up of the car accidents, and the web of deceit he's woven finally catch up to him? And perhaps the most important question of all, will Martell face legal consequences for his actions, or will he continue to live above the law, protected by his fame and status? What we do know is this: Martell Holt's story is far from over. The truth is out there, and it's slowly unraveling piece by piece. The man who once seemed untouchable is now facing a storm of public scrutiny, and the consequences of his actions may be more serious than anyone initially believed. Stay tuned as we continue to follow this unfolding saga.